Hi everyone. So we are from group 1. We will be doing the chapter 12, which is the basic of capital budgeting. This case is about the Yoshikawa Components Company. They're wondering, they have two projects and they're wondering which one is the best for them to be executed. So Alfredo will start with the first presentation.
Okay. Let's start about the briefcase. So the briefcase is CFO of Yoshikawa Component Company just handed estimated cash flow for two projects. The project is Project L and Project S with 3 years life. Then here is the graph with average cost of capital 10%. With the data above, determine whether one or both of projects should be accepted by answer following questions. Okay, for question A. For question A is, what is capital budgeting? Capital budgeting is the process of planning expenditure on assets with cash flow that are expected to extend beyond 1 year. Then, are there any similarities between firm capital budgeting decisions and individual investment decisions? So these are the similarities about those. For the first one is they calculate the risks that involve in cash flow, and then those find rate of returns, and then both are considered if the present value of inflows is greater than the present value of outflows, which means the net present value should be positive. Then calculated rate of return is also to be considered that if it is higher than the total cost of capital. Then for question B, what is the difference between independent and mutually exclusive project? Between project with normal and non-normal cash flow. So the difference between independent project and mutually exclusive project is where independent project whose cash flow are not affected by another one. Then whereas mutually exclusive project are affected by another one. So when there are two independent projects, if both NPV is positive, we can accept both projects. But when there is two mutually exclusive projects, we just accept a project with highest positive NPV. Then what is the difference between project with normal and non-normal cash flow? Project with normal cash flow is if it has one or more cash, if it has one or more cash outflow followed by a series cash inflow, and for non-normal they are random. Okay, next question. Okay, so for the question C, there are 3 questions. For the first one is define the term net present value. What is each project NPV, and what is the rationale behind the NPV method? According to NPV, which project should be accepted if they are independent and mutually and how about mutually exclusive? And for the third question is, would the NPV change if the average cost of capital change? Explain. So the first question, net value is the difference between present value cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows over a period of time. it used to analyze the probability a project. So these are how to calculate net present value. They are, in this case, they are 3 years and two project L and project S. To calculate a net present value, we must calculate present value for project L and project S first. Then here is the data. And for the formula for present value is cash flow divided by 1 plus this interest pangkat N. And then after we know about the present value, we can calculate net present value by adding all present value. So for project L, we can get 18.779, and for project S, we can get 19.983. And if net present value is higher than 0, means the investment will add value to the firm. If equal to 0, means the investment will either gain or lose value for the firm. And if below than 0, means the investment will subtract the value from the firm. If for the next question is, what is the rationale behind the NPV value method? I already answered that. To analyze the profitability of project according to NPV, which project should be accepted if they are independent or mutually exclusive. So for independent projects, since the cash flow of one are unaffected by the acceptance of another one, the firm should accept both project L and project S. Then if the case is mutually exclusive projects, since the cash flow of one can be adversely impacted by the acceptance of the another, the firm should accept the project S because the value of project S is higher than the value of project L. Okay, next. Okay, for the last question is, will the net present value change if the average cost of capital change? Explain. Yes, net present value is greatly affected by rate, because the higher rate will decrease net present value. Okay, for next question, Mohan will present.
Hi, so for question D, define the term internal rate of return or IRR. What is each project's IRR? IRR is the discount rate that forces a project's NPV to equal 0. The IRR is an estimate of the project rate of return, and it is comparable to the YTM on a bond. As you can see, the formula is the initial investment plus the inflow at the first, second, and third year and the n year divided by 1 plus the IRR to the power of n, which is the year number. So using the financial calculator, we can get the project IRR is 18.13, and then for project S, we can get 23.6%. So the next question is, how is the IRR on a project related to the YTM on a bond? Basically, they're the same. IRR of a project and the YTM of a bond are similar by the expected rate of return on the project. But the difference is the YTM is the promised return the promised rate of return on a bond, not on a project. And what is the logic behind the IRR method? The logic behind the IRR is that the IRR is an estimate of the project rate of return. If the rate exceeds the cost of the fund used to finance the project, then the difference in the rate of benefit in the rates can benefit the company or the stakeholder. According to IRR, which project should be accepted if they are independent and if they are mutually exclusive. If they are independent, then both projects would be accepted because both IRR are higher than the WACC, which is 10%. And if they are mutually exclusive, then project X will be accepted because the IRR is bigger than the project L IRR, and it's bigger than the company WACC. Would the project IRR change if the WACC change? No, the answer is no, because IRR is independent and therefore it would not change. The IRR is normally fixed for every project. So as you can see, this is the NPV, and I mean like the IRR for project L, and then this is the project S. As you can see, after the third year, it's almost equal to 0. Question A. Question E. Draw NPF profiles for the project L and S at what discount rate do the profile cross? So this is the NPF profile for L and S. As you can see, there are almost crosses at around 8 to 9%. And if you want to get the exact number, it's 8.68%. Look at your NPF profile graph without referring to the actual NPFs, NPV and IRR. Which project should be accepted if they're independent and mutually exclusive? And will our answer correct if the WACC less than 23.6%? So if the projects are independent, then both should be accepted because both are, as you can see from the graph, both are higher than the WACC. And if the project are mutually exclusive, then the project S will be chosen because, as you can see from the graph, the orange one is higher than the blue one at the WACC. So what will our answer still correct if the WACC less than 23.6%? So the answer will still be correct if WACC is higher than the crossover rate. However, the NPV profile shows that the NPVL is higher than the NPVS if WACC less than the crossover rate. So if you can see here, if it's less than 8.68, so the project L, it's higher. If it's higher than the 8.68, then project S will be higher. So actually this condition will create a conflict because the NPV rule says choose L, but the IRR rule say choose S. Therefore, if the WACC is less than the crossover rate, then it will make a conflict. Then my friend Hans will continue.
Okay, now I will explain about question F. Number one is what is the underlying cause of ranking conflicts between NPV and IRR? There are two basic conditions that can cause NPV and IRR to conflict. The first one is timing difference. Because if most of the cash flow from one project come early while most of the cash flow from other project come in later, the NPV and IRR might conflict. The other one is the project size difference, because if the amount of invested in one project is larger than the other, this can lead to NPV and IRR conflict. For the second question is, what is the reinvestment rate assumption and how does it affect the NPV and IRR conflict? Reinvestment rate assumption is an assumption that the company will reinvest the money obtained from a project at a specific interest rate, which can use either WACC or the IRR. In general, the assumption that the cash flow can be reinvested at the IRR is flawed, because while the assumption that the cash flow can be reinvested at the WACC is correct, the reason why the cash flow can be reinvested at IRR is flawed is because there are competitions. So if the IRR is very high, it will be hard to find a project with the same IRR because everybody will start going there. And even if they find such a project, it's usually pretty big, so they need external capital. And that external capital will use WACC. Which method is best and why? In general, NPV is considered to be the better method compared to IRR because it provides a direct measure of value the project adds to the shareholder wealth. While NPV is generally better, IRR shouldn't be ignored as it measures profitability expressed as a percentage rate of return, which is useful to decision maker. For question G, the first question is define the term modified IRR or MIRR and find the MIRR for project L and S. The MIRR is the internal rate of return of a project, except that it is based on the assumption that the cash flow are reinvested at the WACC instead of the IRR. For the formula, it uses the present value of cost, which is equal to terminal value divided by 1 plus MIRR to the power of n. For the value of the MIRR, for project S itself, we can see that the terminal value is $159.7. And from that, we can conclude that the MIRR from the table that it is 16.89% because it's the result of the square root of 3 of 1.97. For project L, we can find that the terminal value is 158.1 and the MIRR is 16.49%. And for question D, what are the MIRR advantages and disadvantages compared to the NPV? For general use, NPV is still better than MIRR because NPV select the project that maximize value. However, the MIRR is still better than IRR as an indicator of a project's true rate of return. For the next question will be answered by Eka.
Okay, next I will try to answer question H. First, the question is, what is payback period? And then find the payback for project L and project S. The definition of payback period is the length of time required for investment cash flow to cover its costs. The formula is payback equal to number of years prior to fully recovery plus unrecovered costs at start of year divided by cash flow during full recovery year. And then for payback for project L equal to 2 plus 30 divided by 80, that is 2.375 years. And then payback for project S is 1 plus 30 divided by 50, and then the result is 1.6 years. Next. And then the next question is, what is the rationale for payback method? According to the payback criterion, which project should be accepted if the firm maximum acceptable payback is 2 years? If project L and S are independent, if project L and S mutually exclusive. The rationale for the payback method is to estimate the time it takes the cash flow from a capital investment project to equal the cash outflow, usually expressed in years. When deciding between two or more competing projects, the usual decision is to accept the one with the shortest payback. If project LN is independent with the firm maximum acceptable payback is 2 years, project should be expected is just project S with payback 1.6 years. Also, if project L and S are mutually exclusive, the result is same. Just the project S with payback 1.6 years should be accepted. Next. And then the question number 3 is, what is different between the regular and discounted payback methods? The difference between payback period and discounted payback period is that payback period refers to the length of time required to recover the cost of an investment, whereas discounted payback period calculates the length of time required to recover the cost and investment and taking the time value of money into account. Question number 4. What are two main disadvantages of discounted payback? Is the payback method of any real usefulness in capital budgeting decision? Explain. The main disadvantage of this discounted payback period method, first, that it does not take into account cash flow coming in after break-even. And the second, it shows only the time needed to cover the initial cost of project and in some break-even analysis technique. For this reason, this method can conflict with NPV and therefore can be wrong. And then payback period are especially useful for a business that tends to make relatively small investment and so does provide information about liquidity and risk. Next. And then as separate project, namely project P, the firm considers sponsoring a pavilion at upcoming world fairs. There are project P expected cash flow in $1 million from years 0 to years 2. With assumption is WACC is 10%. The question number 1 is, what is project P NPV? The NPV using by formula and the finance calculator is minus 0.39 million dollars. The second question is, what is project P IRR? IRR for project B is 25%. Next. The third question is, what is project P MIRR? To calculate the MIRR, first we calculate the terminal value. The terminal value is 0.5. And then we from the terminal value we seek to MIRR. The result MIRR is negative 20.95%. Why this is negative? Because the terminal value of the MIRR is smaller than the present value. So the cost is larger in initial than terminal value. So the actual rate of return will be negative. And then number 4, draw project P and PV profile. Does the project P have normal cash flow? This is the plot of NPV profile for the project P. We can see that there is in 2 points, that is IRR 25% and 400%, that NPV is 0 because the project P have non-normal cash flow due to cash outflow occurs sometime after inflow the comments. So the result is graph that give asymptotic graph. Okay, thank you.
So thanks everyone. So that's all from us. If you have any question, you can ask us in the class later this week. Thank you.